How's it going, guys? Vaibhav here and welcome to a video talking about the Huawei Mate 40 Pro. Now, I wanted to make sure that the specifications of the phone are out before I make this video. The official launch for the phone happens on October the 22nd, which is just a few days away now. But I thought because all the specifications of the phone are now available to the public domain, I'd give you guys my thoughts and opinions and tell you guys what I think about the Huawei Mate 40 Pro and its series. Now, before we get into the video, a huge thank you to Roland Quant for leaking the specifications. He basically owns and is a big part of WinFuture, where I will be discussing most of these specifications from. So if you haven't checked him out, make sure you give him a follow because he's pretty much up there when it comes to leaking most of the devices out there, and that's basically where I'm getting all this information from. Now, this is a picture of the Mate 40 Pro. I do want to scroll down to this picture, which was also one that was teased and leaked about a few days ago. I did not want to discuss it. Apparently, there's going to be a Mate 40 Pro, which is what we see on screen right here and which we'll discuss in this video. There's going to be a Mate 40 Pro Plus as well, just like we saw with the P40 Pro series. And there's also going to be a Mate 40 RS. And I think this design is reserved for the RS variant, which we don't know much about. And that's pretty much what we're expecting the event to reveal. So without further ado, let's get into the Mate 40 Pro. Again, WinFuture, a huge shout out to them because most of these leak videos that I make over on my channel are based off of what we see on WinFuture. And that's exactly what we're going for. Now, the Mate 40 Pro is supposed to have a 6.7-inch OLED display with a 2772 by 1344 resolution, and basically that means a pixel density of 456 pixels. It's going to be an OLED panel, so nothing different on that front, but we don't know if this is going to have an increased refresh rate or not. Now, from the design of the display, it looks very similar to what the Huawei P40 Pro looked like. So if you see the P40 Pro, it's got huge curves on both the edges, and that's exactly what the Mate 40 Pro series is going for. And it's also got that dual pill cutout. Now, maybe the dual pill cutout on the Mate 40 Pro is to save costs because they might already have made these panels and made an abundance of these panels. So making them a bit larger isn't really the biggest difference in cost. So maybe they're going for the same R&D and sort of plopping it on the Mate 40 Pro series as well. Because remember, this is going to be the last substantial flagship series from Huawei before we start seeing major shifts in the software, major shifts in the hardware that Huawei uses. And that's why next year for Huawei is a huge step up and a huge year. And that's something I'm really looking forward to because with the embargoes that the USA placed on Huawei, its sort of market share has depreciated now. Maybe the stats don't show you that, but people just don't prefer Huawei smartphones and go for something else because they feel like the Huawei smartphones that they're going to buy are going to cause problems in the long run, and I don't really blame them for doing that. Now, in terms of the design, we're seeing two colors here. We're seeing a color that's similar to the starry white finish we saw on the P30 Pro series, which was 1 year ago, and then sort of a darker version of the phone as well. Something I do want to get to is the camera cutout, and from the looks of it, the camera bump is very, very small and shares a design aesthetic very similar to the Huawei Mate 30 Pro. And that's not a big surprise. People like to just make incremental updates. I mean, the iPhone doesn't even make that, but this is an incremental update. The camera does see slight changes. Now, I don't have the Mate 30 Pro to show you guys on screen or on camera, but basically the Mate 30 Pro and the Mate 40 Pro incremental update, and it's got a different color. I don't know if this is a matte finish or a glossy finish. I'm hoping it's a matte finish because the matte finish on the P40 Pro does absolute wonders. Like, you could literally smudge it all you like and you'll see no fingerprint on the back. And that's something I've grown to appreciate from flagship smartphones and even general smartphones in 2020. So I hope Huawei does that. You can also see that the power button has a different color. That's something I really love from Huawei. They do this small thing to the power button that makes it stand out. They did it with the Mate 20 Pro, and I love that phone. I still have it, it's there. And they did it with the Mate 30 Pro as well. No different colors. They might have different colors for the different variants of the phone. Now, in terms of the actual specifications of the phone, we're looking at huge changes once again. So this is the Kirin 9000 SoC with a 5 nanometer manufacturing process, the same nanometer manufacturing process that we've seen on Apple's A14 Bionic CPU that's coming with the new iPhone 12 series. Now, this is a huge step because one, this is probably the last high-end SoC that's going to be manufactured by TSMC for Huawei devices, because after that Huawei cannot rely on these and they might have to switch to another form of chipset altogether. Now, in terms of the processing power, it's got 4 different cores, so 4 cores and 4 cores. The 4-core ARM Cortex A55 cores are maximum at 2.04 gigahertz, whereas the other 4 cores go all the way up to 2.54 gigahertz. I think that's not all 4 cores, that's 3 cores, I believe. Yes, so 3 cores go up to 2.54, and there's 1 extra core that goes up to 3.13 gigahertz, which makes it on par, if not more, than the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 Plus CPU we've seen on previous or current Android smartphones. And again, in terms of power, it's going to be right up there. It's just a shame that it's a Huawei smartphone, and I'm going to get to that in just a bit. I just cannot recommend Huawei smartphones after what's happened over the last couple of years, because they were at a very, very high point and they've sort of plummeted down, in my opinion. And so this is what we're looking at with the Huawei Mate 40 Pro series. So we're gonna get the ARM Mali G78 graphics unit on there. Of course, 5G connectivity as well. Sub 6 gigahertz networks supported on the chipset also. So pretty much imagine the most power that you can pack on a chipset. That is the chipset that the Huawei Mate 40 Pro 5G is going to come with. Now, in terms of other internal specifications, we know this thing has 8 gigabytes of RAM according to this website and 256 gigabytes of UFS 3.1 storage. The storage cannot be expanded via microSD, but it can be expanded via proprietary nano expansion that Huawei sort of changed towards from the Mate 20 series. Now, aside from that, in China specifically, you're also going to get a 12 gigabyte model as well as different models, including the Pro Plus model and the Mate 40 RS model, which probably has a different design and probably has different camera specifications like we saw earlier in this video. But speaking of the camera, let's get into that. The Leica partnership with Huawei still continues on the Mate 40 Pro, and this time it's supposed to give you even powerful or even more powerful images and performance. There's something that the autofocus unit has seen in the Mate 40 Pro, which basically means you're gonna get a combination of laser autofocus with a different camera sensor, and that's gonna give you better autofocus technology according to this article, whereas the primary sensor on the smartphone is going to say the same 15 megapixel unit that we saw on the P40 Pro series as well. There's also a color temperature sensor on the Mate 40 Pro, and that's supposedly to help with better and more realistic colors. Now, something that I've noticed over the past couple of years using Huawei smartphones is that their portrait images when they use the primary camera aren't the best, and maybe this color sensor that the Mate 40 Pro equips will lead to better pictures when it comes to reproducing your skin tones, reproducing your colors on that front. Because in terms of night mode, I think Huawei's killed it. It's probably the best night mode camera that you can get, barring maybe the Pixel series. But all of these come really, really close in my opinion. I haven't used a Pixel device, but definitely when it comes to imaging technology and how reliable the cameras on the Mate 40 and just Huawei smartphones really are, I don't see how anyone can compete with the value that they bring. Aside from that, you also get a 20 megapixel ultra wide angle sensor at f1.8 aperture. It's an f1.9 aperture on the 50 megapixel sensor, by the way. There's no word on sensor size. That's what Huawei likes to focus on more. They like to increase the sensor size because they go for nighttime photography. That's something we have not heard from in this article. And there's also a 12 megapixel f3.0 aperture for your zoom camera. So with the zoom camera, you can record up to 8K video, which is a huge step up from the 4K video that we've seen Huawei smartphones do. And this is a faster step up. So if you don't know, Huawei didn't record 4K 60 FPS video, and it took about 1.5 years before they made that jump. The 8K videos that we saw only came here with the Samsung Galaxy series, the Galaxy S20 series earlier this year. And it's nice that Huawei's already adopted it with the Mate 40 Pro. And aside from that, you also get 5x magnification, so 5x zoom with the device. Again, Huawei is not a company that focuses a lot on zoom. That's what I've heard from, especially with the P40 Pro launch. So they're sort of swaying away from zooming in and the zoom technology and going more for nighttime photography and the general camera experience, which I know is going to be backed up a lot by AI, and they do a good job with AI as well. So I'm happy to see what Huawei has in store in terms of AI features. Also, now on the front side of things, we're looking at a 13 megapixel camera with an f2.4 aperture, as well as a 3D sensor for things like gestures, as well as facial recognition. Now, the pill on the left side is more of a personal preference. I don't really know if people will like it. People might like it, people might not like it, but at least it makes for good wallpapers if you want to use the pill embedded in the wallpapers. That's something I use on my P40 Pro whenever I use it, so maybe that's something that people will appreciate. The display, it's a subjective view once again. The curves, I don't really mind them, but people don't like them a lot. So this might be something to do with accidental touches, all of that stuff. Again, we'll know more once we see the device in action. Something I wish the Mate 40 Pro does is improve the speakers on the system, because since they've gone for this in-display speaker system, they sort of diluted the importance of it. I think it's a very important feature to have on a flagship smartphone, and I wish the Mate 40 Pro has some really good stereo speakers to combine with the display, which is a 6.7-inch panel. And that pretty much brings me on to the battery capacity and then the software of the phone. The battery capacity is a 4,400 milliamp hour cell, and this time it comes with 65 watt charging. So Huawei's gone up from the 40 watt all the way to 65 watts, and it supports charging via Type-C USB. You can also charge it wirelessly really fast. Huawei is known to step up the wireless charging technology as well over the past 6 to 8 months. So if you're looking to wirelessly charge your phone, you can do that as well. And you can also reverse wirelessly charge other things like your FreeBuds that Huawei has produced, or any other wireless piece of tech that charges wirelessly. You could use the phone to charge that. So again, Huawei was a pioneer for that, and they're continuing it on the Mate 40 Pro series. And that brings me on to software. So this thing is going to come with Android 10. Not a surprise here, but it's not going to come with the Google Play services that we grow and love and sort of grown accustomed to from Android devices. So if you want Google Play services, you will need to bypass whatever the security features that Google's implemented in order to access all of these services. And once you even access them, I'm not sure if you're going to get a reliable access to them. Huawei is definitely working on incorporating these services with the app gallery service that Huawei has on its smartphones, where you can use something called Petal Search to search for your favorite applications, but the reliability of that is yet to be proven on a mass scale, and that's something I'm really looking forward to, not with this device, but with the next year and the next wave of Huawei devices, which is supposed to run Harmony OS as well. You can also see EMUI 11 on this thing, so I've made a video on EMUI 11 on a GN Tech's channel. If you want to check that video out, I'll leave a card above on the screen, and you can go and check that video out, because EMUI 11 brings a lot of active always on display changes. It also brings some animation changes. It's very subtle things, but those do help you in the long run when it comes to user experience. And I'm sure once EMUI is out of beta, which is supposed to happen in just 4 days with this launch, you'll see more increments or more features to that. Aside from that, we've also got something on the size and weight of the phone. So it's a 9.1 millimeter thick phone. Not the best, so it's gonna be unwieldy, and 212 grams is also not very lightweight. Over the past few weeks, I've grown used to smaller phones, thinner phones, more lightweight phones, and switching to this, I don't know if it's gonna be a very nice thing to do. But again, it's something that comes down to personal preference. Some people prefer that heavy, sort of unwieldy look with bigger hands. I don't have bigger hands, so that's just something I prefer. More pictures of the Mate 40 Pro. I'm really looking forward to trying the camera. Unfortunately, it's a phone that doesn't come with full Android support, and only for that reason and our reliance on Android technology, I cannot guarantee that I would recommend this phone to anyone just based off of the leaks that we have. But if you're looking for an insane camera, then I think the Mate 40 Pro is a very easy phone to vouch for. EMUI 11 being mentioned here alongside Huawei mobile services, which of course ties in with the app gallery that I talked about earlier. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I think the lack of Google Play services doesn't necessarily bother Huawei in China, because even in China, it's more of a thing that people don't have. They have their own services, but definitely for the international audience, this is something that is going to impact their purchase decision. But I think in terms of power, Mate 40 Pro is great. In terms of the camera, the Mate 40 Pro is supposed to be great as well. The only thing letting it down, like every single launch over the past year or so, is the software. And that about sums up this video. Let me know what you guys think about the Mate 40 Pro down in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more videos. I have the iPhones pre-ordered, so more videos on that coming very, very shortly. Thanks for watching. This was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.